It's an honor to be here sharing with you our experience in the Indigenous governance program and connecting with UHIP and the family that we've made over the years here in Hawaii. And to talk about what we do in Indigenous governance and the work that my colleague and friend Jeff Corntassel and I have done over the last 12 years in Victoria, and our efforts to bring that forward here in the context of the themes of your conference is something for us to kind of give us a chance to reflect on what we do and also the direction that we're headed as a program and in the relationship that we have with Noinoi, Nolani, Hoku, and all the other people involved in the relationship that we have. But before I go on, I just wanted to mention for those of you that don't know, we are here as part of our exchange, our regular exchange that we have between the University of Victoria and the University of Hawaii. And besides myself and my friend Jeff Corntassel, there's a number of students, and there'll be more people coming. You're all here in the audience. You can probably spot us because we're the ones that are all pasty looking from lack of sun on the west coast of Canada. But we're going to fix that in the next couple of days. And next year we're going to look like to fit right in over here. So what I wanted to start out talking about was our approach to doing academic work and scholarship and actually being Indigenous in the Academy and in the relationship that we have to the Academy. To lay things out in terms of the approach that we have in the Indigenous governance program, we see ourselves as a site of decolonization, as a site of Indigenous resurgence. And we see ourselves as being in academics incidental to that. So we are not primarily academics, we are primarily Indigenous people asserting and advocating and working for the resurgence of our nations in the context of the Academy because it's offering us an opportunity to do good work and to make progress on that primary objective. And so the values that we bring to our program are shaped by that, and shaped by that as an understanding, as an awareness, and as a set of commitments. So if I'm a big fan of alliteration today, always, but today I think I'm stuck on the word D. So decolonization, dispossession, disassociation, all these kind of words are kind of going through my mind right now. And the first thing that we're committed to is actually looking at our nationhood and the resurgence of that from the encumbrances or the restrictions that have been placed on that through the process of colonization. So one of the first efforts that we commit ourselves to in the Indigenous governance program that we always have is this notion of breaking this notion of the domestication of our nationhood. And so when we think about our nationhood, we think of ourselves as Chalagi, Mohawk, Cree, Dene, and so forth. We don't think of ourselves as Canadian or American or part of a multi-ethnic mosaic in any one of these countries. We think of ourselves as people who are members of nations. And one of the main impacts of colonization has been the restriction and the degradation of that in the mind of our own people. Over the years, a lot of our people in Canada have come to accept the fact that they're Canadians that have an Aboriginal status within the country of Canada. And so what we try to do in our program is to break that notion wide open, excuse me, and to look at the idea of the resurgence of this whole idea of what it is to be part of a network of relationships that extend beyond Canada, beyond the United States, beyond the state of Hawaii, beyond the province of British Columbia. So the idea of domestication is something that we focus on quite strenuously in the studies that we do and in the work that we do as well. And so breaking domestication is the first thing. The second thing that we focus on is the dislocation of our people through dispossession. So obviously, the stealing of our land has been a central fact of colonization. And the dispossession of our people, the movement of our people, the forced movement of our people off of our own lands is something that we try to counter in terms of looking at the understanding of the impacts of that, but also in terms of putting people back on the land. And so our program has been shaped by the effort to try to figure out ways, theoretically, and then putting it into practice. And I'll talk about all of this in relation to the exchange that we have after I kind of lay out the basic idea. But the dislocation of our people, or the dispossession of our people, is the other central fact of our existence as colonized beings that we need to really look at and figure out ways on how to counter.
The third one is a word that I first encountered when I heard a Blackfoot scholar named Leroy Littlebear speak of it, which is the deculturation of our people. And I realized that it might sound a bit insulting. It might sound entirely negative to say that we've been decultured. I know I reacted that way, and I always admit this when I talk about it. I reacted this way when I first heard Leroy talk about it when I was in my 20s, and a lot more confident about myself in a lot of ways. But when I heard the fact that I was a decultured young Native person, I bristled at that. But over the years, I've come to realize that that is another central fact of colonization. The fact of our existence is that our ancestors, whether you look back 2 generations, 3, 4, or go all the way back 10 generations, had a lot more cultural strength than we do in terms of their ability to exhibit and manifest the values of our ancestors and the values of our culture as we talk about them so much. You know, so our language and, well, certain people notably accepted in the room here, but generally speaking, Indigenous people, our language, our cultural knowledge, the things that Vince was talking about and so forth, is much less than before. And so that's another aspect of what we try to do, realizing that we're not a ceremonial space, we're not a sacred space, we're not cultural teachers, but we recognize that in our program, it's part of our responsibility to put our students in a position to reculture themselves, to address that deculturation. And so if you put those 3 things together, you really have the essence of what we try to do, and what's come to be in our mind, the actual essence of what it is to be an Indigenous scholar. If you're looking at where we are in the time and place that we exist, in the whole spectrum of colonization's effects, in the whole timeline of colonization, where we are in terms of global politics and forces and everything, our set of responsibilities comes from this understanding. And what we do is draw on the ancestral knowledge and the ancestral teachings and try to put our students in a position to question themselves, to look at their history, to look at their land, to look at their manifestation of colonization, and to challenge them to access that traditional knowledge, to make their lives better and to make themselves more Indigenous in the process of coming through our program. The last D that I'll talk about today is disassociation. And here's where it relates to academia more specifically, in our relationship to academia. One of the things that I found, and so I went to grad school in the 80s, the late 80s, and then got my degree in the mid-90s. And I've come to the conclusion that most of academia is extremely disassociated from this whole process. So, not to say anything about ethnic studies, it may be different, I don't know. But I'm a political scientist by training, and so is Jeff. And what we found is that through our experience as grad students and young professors, and then trying to build a program in the academy that does the things that I'm talking about, most people in the academy are not committed to this. Most people are not even understanding of the need to do these things. And so the disassociation of the academy from this process of resurgence is a major challenge for us as well. And so what we've done in building a relationship with the University of Hawaii and the people that we have here in terms of our relations is to try to advance all of this, and specifically to build a set of commitment, build a set of relationships with people who can become allies and people who we can learn from and people that we can share with, to build a global movement of Indigenous peoples to reorient the struggle. This sounds like a grandiose vision, but I think you have to have big visions if you're going to motivate yourself for a career of 30 years or something, you know? To build a global movement of Indigenous people who are aware of the pitfalls of fighting for decolonization in the other ways that don't lead us to the full resurgence and the full liberation of our people from colonization. And I'm very proud to say that the first set of people that we encountered who see things in the same way and who have the same set of commitments are our friends here. And the relationship that we've built over the years with UHIP here at the University of Hawaii began, in terms of a timeline, a little bit of a chronology, in the relationship that Noi Noi and I had, and she graciously invited me to come speak, and I came to speak here at Hawaiian Studies, and we got to meet and to interact. That was followed up by a visit by Jeff, I think in the following year, or shortly thereafter, where we consolidated an agreement between our programs to begin to work together, because we saw in beginning to build a relationship and to talk and to go to ceremony and to share culture and to just to visit with each other, we saw that we do have that shared understanding, and we wanted to build something so that we can offer our students the opportunity to learn more than we could offer them in the local context. And so the essence of our relationship, now moving to what we do here in terms of our exchange and our shared program, is that we bring students here periodically. It's worked out to about every 2 years. And they share in the programming and the teachings. And they get to meet people, and they get to go out on the land and the water, and they get to experience a little bit of what it is that Hawaiian people are doing to do those 3 things that I talked about. And then in a reciprocal way, people from Hawaii in the UHIP program and some people from outside UHIP sometimes come into the environments that we've created in our relationships that Jeff is going to talk about after I'm done here, that Jeff is going to talk about and explain how we can bring, how we do bring Hawaiian people, and in a reciprocal way, expose them to people in British Columbia who are doing a similar work. And so what we found over the years is that this is such a strong way to advance our own understanding of what land-based restoration is, what decolonization is, what the tools are and the understandings are and the methods and the approaches are for building strong relationships among Indigenous people founded on those Indigenous values, that we're now we're aspiring to take it beyond the relationship that we have with Hawaii and to take it in a sense to a global context. But it makes sense for the context of this conference because we're focusing on Oceania, because that is another set of relationships that we've encountered over the years, where we begin to see that there are more people than just us here in Hawaii and in British Columbia who are committed to and understand things in these ways. In all of these environments, there are people who have other views, we all know that, about other ways of doing decolonization, but there are a core of people in different countries and different Indigenous nations who see things this way. And so I'll leave you with a kind of a sense and an invitation, if you will, to join us in this building of a relationship and the expansion of it to make a global movement, because what we're hoping to do in the next few years, and we actually have a proposal that we're working on with the University of Auckland, with the Maori people, and in Australia, with a number of different nations, notably the ones in the northern part of Australia, to actually build a collaborative research agenda, and they can then begin to build the type of relationship that we have here, and to draw all of us into a set of relationships where we can begin to challenge domestication, dislocation, and deculturization in all of these different contexts, and to use the strength that we have together in order to do that, to give our students the opportunity to be better academics, stronger Indigenous people, and even more effective at decolonization than we've been in the work that we've done. So, Nyawa Goa, and I'll leave it to my friend Jeff to continue.